here's the title, Defending the Faith. I'm looking to try to figure out how to help you do that in all of its definition. The first slide I have here is called On Tap. What I like to do is tell you what's coming. So we're going to talk about Jude 3. I'm going to read that verse to you. Actually, I'm going to recite it from memory. Then we're going to talk about archaeology. Everybody know what archaeology is, right? Okay, you get a shovel, you dig in some dirt, you find something. That's the definition of archaeology. I'm also going to talk about atheism. Has anybody heard of atheism? A couple, okay. As I've said, it's important to know your audience. And one of the sections that I'm going to cover, hopefully this is going to be very helpful. It's very helpful to me. Science after the Bible declared it. So what you're going to see, and I want you to think about this from the standpoint, you know there are multiple religions in the world. And they've been there for a while. Some of them go back 4,000 years. Some of them are recent. Doesn't really matter. They all have some type of ancient writing that guides what they do. That's just how it is. So in comparing all those writings to the Bible, I'm going to show you some differences that do not occur in any other religious group except the Bible. So that's what's called science after the Bible declared it. All right, so here is Jude 3. If you don't know what you believe, how can you defend it? That's my opening thought. So if a person, let's just take a person who maybe they were not raised in a family that used the scriptures. They did not ever go to an assembly or a church or a synagogue. That just was not part of their lifestyle. Then they go to college, and then they're out of college, and they're doing whatever they're doing. They hear about the Word of God. And so they're like, I need to hear more. So they hear more, and they say, you know what? I'm going to move forward with God. All right, so can I tell that person, well, you need to go out there and defend your faith? They don't even have a clue what that means because they haven't had time to learn it. So, I want to say that defend your faith, you need to figure out what it is. Jude 3 says, contend for the faith which once and for all time has been given to the saints. What does that mean? That means before the end of the first century, everything that you need to know to move forward in this walk has been declared and it is available to you. Before anything that comes after the first century, you can pretty much bet on it being bad. Not correct. Something to deceive you. Something to throw you off course. Anything after the first century that's making a new claim, it's really a false claim. Do not be trapped with that. So, once again, contend for the faith which has once and for all time been given to the saints. So that means that it's something that can be transferred to you. If you have it, you can defend it. If you have no idea what I'm talking about, it's going to be a struggle to defend it. Okay? So, hopefully I don't say that too many times today. All right, I want to hit archaeology quick. I'm not going into great detail today because I already had a presentation when I went into great detail about archaeology. It'll be available on the website if you actually want to see it. But I do want to talk about, we all understand that you get a shovel, you dig. Now, this is not always the case because if you remember, how many people have heard of the Dead Sea Scrolls? There was no digging. Some guy's out there with his sheep or his cattle or whatever he's out there with. He's bored. He grabs a rock. He throws it into a cave. He hears something break. He's like, what was that? So he goes up in the cave. He goes through the stuff and says, ooh, this is some stuff. I can make some money. So in a short amount of time, we've got over 1,000 writings and artifacts that go back over 2,000 years. Changed the world. So it's not always a shovel. But generally speaking, when you're dealing with the Old Testament, you need a shovel. So I wanted to give you an idea. I mean, I'm sure you probably can envision it. Who knows? Maybe you saw a picture. Maybe you saw a movie. You get somebody's out there digging in the desert somewhere, and then there's a hand sticking up. All he got is the bones. It's like, oh, I should tell somebody. So they get on the phone, they call somebody, and 2 weeks later this person flies in, and they sit there and look. Yeah, that's a bony hand. Okay. So he gets on the phone. He calls somebody else. And so he brings 2 people with him. So 2 months later, they're out there. Yep, you're right. It's a bony hand. All right. So then they say, okay, well, what are we going to do? Well, let's hire 3,000 people and have them come over here and dig this entire area for the next 10 years. So they find a whole bunch of more bones. And so then they're cataloging them and they're taking pictures, and they got the X-ray pictures and the spectrogram pictures and blah, 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 everything. So they said, okay, let's turn this over to the scholars for another 10 years. So after 20 plus years, they write articles and they publish them. That's what comes to my desk. So I get a report on something here. Well, I just got it, but it came up 20 years ago. So archaeology is the slowest moving train in the history of the world. I just say, you don't dig it up today, write about it tomorrow, and publish it the next day. That is not how it works. So, understanding the speed of archaeology, I want to tell you about numbers. First, just for curiosity's sake, if you live in Oklahoma, could you raise your hand? Quite a few. All right, well, this will make sense. Currently, in the land of Israel only, there are 35,000 sites that either have started and have brought forth something or are in current digging. 35,000. Now, I want, just so you can understand shapes and sizes, how many Israels could fit in Oklahoma? The answer is 8. And I still have some Oklahoma dirt left over. So we're talking about, what is that? 8 times 35? 280,000 digs? 280,000 digs could be taking place in Oklahoma right now. And there's going to be another 10 tomorrow. This is how it works. This is how it's been working for decades. So, when I sit here and say, I'm very excited about archaeology, the answer is, yes, I am, because they're always finding the next thing that's going to talk about the findings of some other nation. So, just to make it simple, I want to break this down for you. If Babylon, 600 BC, that's 2,600 years from now, the king has a scribe, and every time they do something, he writes it down on a stone or some other thing. I'm not showing all those pictures today. I showed them all yesterday. Wrote it down on a stone. You've heard of the Moabite stone and a bunch of other things. We actually use that as a figure of speech for dating. Oh, yeah, that was before the Moabite stone, right? You know, people use that. They write it down. They bury it. It's kind of like putting a letter in a bottle, throw it over in the Atlantic Ocean, and 200 years later, it washes up in South America or something. Same concept. So they write it, put it in the ground, bury it. We dig it up. So now we got to learn the language. That's done. So now we're reading it, and we come over to the Bible, and we look and see that at exactly the same time, this land is referred to by the Bible, and these people that are written about are referred to by the Bible. And this is talking about the Bible, which was referred to in the Bible. And I'm like, excited. This is my life. Because Deuteronomy 32:1 says the heavens and the earth. The heavens have been speaking for a long time. They can sit now. Let's talk to the earth. The earth is being dug up. The testimony of the accuracy of the scriptures and its relationship to the world from the beginning is coming forth. You don't know that. And neither do the people that you're going to be defending your faith for. So I'm going to be talking about a little bit of that because the amount of information you could learn is overwhelming. And it ain't going to happen for anybody in this room. But you can begin the process of realizing that God was a tricky God. What he did was everything got buried because there was going to come a day when, and this is Deuteronomy 32:1, the earth would testify to the truth. It began 200 years ago for the most part. And now there's 35,000 Israel only. And that's not even talking about all the nations around it. That's just Israel. And it is dropping daily. So I want you to understand the role of archaeology. It does not save anybody. It's not going to save you. It's not going to save anybody else. It's not going to do anything with your faith except when you realize that every day what is being found makes this thing, wow, it's really accurate. Wow, it's really accurate. Now you got something to stand on. Because they're going to come and they're going to tell you the Bible's a fraud. Then you can tell you, no, Daniel wasn't written in 600 BC. It was written in 150 BC. And you could take a stand and say, oops, that's wrong. Want to try again? Because you said, several of you have heard of Dead Sea Scrolls. Okay. The Bible, as we know it in English, was translated from a Hebrew text dated 1000 AD, which is 1,000 years ago. So if somebody in 1946 had come to me and said, you ain't got a text that's very old, I'd say, yep, you're right. But in 1947, they found one that was another 1,300 years older. So this is the life of archaeology. I can tell you what I found, but there's some things I haven't found yet. Now, they may appear tomorrow, but today I can't help you. So I'm not going to argue that with somebody. But you want to talk about the things that I have found? I can bury you. No problem. We're good. Let's start. Second thing I want to cover with you, atheism. I put this up because this is off of Facebook, and it's a group called Freedom from Atheism Foundation. Atheism is making a comeback. I've been looking at it a little bit, and this is where God never existed. Let me give you an example about atheism. This is their foundational understanding. You take nothing, and then you have some time. Then you take some more nothing. You got some more time, and then boom! The entire universe is created out of nothing, and everything's exactly the way it is right now. That's the definition of atheism. Nothing plus nothing over time equals everything that exists. I'm sorry, my faith is not that strong. Okay? I just wanted to show you this. Since atheists do not believe that God exists, when they die, they have a problem. So I wanted to produce a slide that would help you with this. This atheist died. Here's what was put in the newspaper. Here lies an atheist, all dressed up, and no place to go. No place to go. I'm sorry. All right, so next up, we're going to deal with your audience. You need to know who you're dealing with. And when I say, I don't mean you're dealing with a person from Saudi Arabia, or if you're dealing with a person from Australia, I don't mean that. I mean, in a worldwide sense, what are we looking at as far as people that are out there today? So I have prepared some pictures to help you understand what I think you're facing. You're welcome to disagree. All right, so here's the first one. People concerned with homeschool kids being weird when there's literal humans walking school hallways identifying as a cat. All right. Now, this is a big one. This next one's a big one. Diet water. I am sure glad someone finally came out with diet water. My weight was getting out of control drinking the regular stuff. All right. The longer I live. Oh, this is a famous professor person. The longer I live, the more convinced I am this planet is used by other planets as a lunatic asylum. I'm telling you. Okay, before you argue with someone, ask yourself, is that person even mentally mature enough to grasp the concept of different perspectives? Because if not, there's absolutely no point. These are the people you will be interfacing. I've already interfaced with some. It's been quite entertaining. But here's a promising thought. Jellyfish have survived 650 million years despite not having a brain. This gives so many people hope. Now, as you know, there was a pandemic not too long ago. People wore masks, for better or for worse. For all those people who wore a mask while driving alone, the new outdoor seatbelt is now available. Now, one of the things that I depend on with the government, I expect them to guide me. I drive. Some of you probably drive. There may be some in this room that do not drive. I don't know. It could happen. Even if you don't drive, they could come when you will drive. I depend on the government for signs to help me get down the road. Where am I going? Especially in Oklahoma. Good golly day. But we're not going there. All right. So.
I live here.
Oh, you do? Okay. Yeah, well, I don't. And I have to be concerned about where I'm going because I don't trust my GPS. But anyway, I do depend on signs. But Having said that, I expect the government to think through the assignment of signs when they set them in the road. Now, I know you may say, well, that's an unrealistic expectation. You may be right, but that's where I'm currently at. I expect them to do it right. If they make a mistake, fix it. Is this rocket science? All right, so here's an example of the next picture. This is the next picture. This is an example of a sign conflict. I'm just saying. All right, next. Emergencies are serious things. Okay? They are. Emergencies are serious things. I haven't really had, I've had pneumonia twice, once in the early 90s and then once in 2021. Okay, so I know that there are medical things. Emergencies are a thing. They are important. If you have somebody there that can help you interface with it, that's a great thing. But then there's this picture. Emergency phone not installed. Please do not have an emergency at this location. All right. Now, my next picture deals with, I'm a food fan because I'm of the position that to continue to live, you have to eat. I mean, you stop eating for a year, it's going to be tough. Right? So you got to eat. So if you're going to eat something, you should eat something that tastes good. Am I telling the truth? All right, so I want to talk about, I know you all have probably already had lunch, so this isn't applying right now, but I want you to look at this next picture. It says, this is a sandwich that tastes like a sandwich with chicken. What is that exactly? People here, some of you, I'm not going to ask for hands, probably been to Walmart. All right, and you're familiar with, you can go through a line where there's a person running checkout, but some Walmarts have a section of the store where you can go through and scan your own stuff. Some of you probably have experienced that. I'm going to show you a picture of what that looks like in Walmart. So I'm at Walmart scanning and bagging my almost $300 worth of groceries while the employee that wants $15 an hour monitors, and then this happens. Why are you double bagging all of your groceries? Excuse me? You are wasting our bags. If you don't like the way I'm bagging the groceries, feel free to come over here and bag them yourself. That's not my job. Okay, then I will bag my groceries how I please, if that's all right with you. Well, why are you using 2 bags? Because the bags are weak, and I don't want the handles to break or the bottoms to rip out. Well, that's because you're putting too much stuff in the bag. If you took half of that stuff out and put it in a different bag, then you wouldn't need to double bag. 10 seconds of me just staring at her. So, you want me to split these items in half and put half of them in a different bag so I don't have to double bag. Exactly. So I would still be using 2 bags to hold the same number of items. No, because you wouldn't be double bagging. Me pressing 2 fingers to my left eye in an attempt to make it stop twitching. Here I have a jug of milk and a bottle of juice double bagged. If I take the milk out and remove the double bagging and just put the milk in a single bag and the juice in that single bag, I'm still using 2 bags for these 2 items. No, because you're not double bagging them. So it's not the number of bags. I'm looking around at another 10 customers who at this point are enjoying the show. Me, is this like the Common Core math I keep hearing about? Never mind, you just don't get it. And with that, she went back to her little podium so I could continue texting or playing games on her phone or whatever it was she was doing before she decided to come over and critique my bagging skills. I suggest when you find yourself in a situation like that, just back up 2 steps, take a breath, and reboot your system because you're not going to win this one. Here's another one of my favorite categories. It's called people incorrectly correcting other people. Never give up on your life. Abraham killed Goliath with just 1 stone. Anything is possible. Okay, the reply is, I'm a Sunday school dropout, but I know where Abraham didn't kill Goliath. It was Moses.
It was David.
The world as it is. Could be a reality show, I think. Okay, my last slide in this category. Who can tell me what this is? That's true, but can you give me a little more specificity?
Bread with sauce and
That's true, but I'm not going for that. It's a Whopper. Okay. Now I look at this. This is a sidebar. Okay. If you notice, I want you to look at the dimensions of the burger and the dimensions of the vegetables. I don't eat vegetables. So, just saying, I don't eat vegetables, okay? I want to tell you about a story that happened in 1998. You don't believe me? That's fine. Get on Google and go find out, because a full-page ad was taken in USA Today. How many people have heard of the newspaper? It's also digital, but the newspaper called USA Today. It is a paper that covers the U.S. events. There's a page that deals with world events. I think in the front of the back of the A section, there's some comment about every single state in the union. I like it. They ran an ad in the beginning of April 1998. So you can verify this, all right? So they took a full-page ad in USA Today announcing the launch of the left-handed Whopper. The left-handed Whopper. I'm bringing the picture up in the next slide. Left-handed Whopper. Here's what they said. Designed specifically for left-handed Americans. Now, I don't know how many people here are left-handed. Okay. There's a few of you. Why are you raising your right hand? Thank you. Let's get that corrected. All right. Designed specifically for left-handed Americans. Burger King said that the condiments on the burger will remain the same, but they will be rotated 180 degrees. I'm reading the text. Don't hold me accountable.
this is so wrong.
Thousands of people showed up the next day asking for the left-handed Whopper.
I mean, it's pretty smart. No, it's not.
So,
People to buy it.
in concluding my presentation on Who's Your Audience, I want you to realize that you're up here and the rest of your audience is down here. Okay? Yeah. All right. So I just want to prepare you. Now, listen, I've been walking this 25 years. I've got some experience. I've experienced a lot of things. I learn from experience. Okay. Make a lot of mistakes. Learn from them too. Now, having said that, you may be new stepping out, getting in people's face and dealing with stuff. That could be new for you. Some of you probably don't like conflict. Good luck with that. You know, variety of things that could take place here. Within 3 sentences, I pretty much know where you are. Now, that's a terrible thing to say, but that's just the reality of how I see it. All right, so if after three sentences, I think that, nope, this is not going to work out, then I'm done. Because I don't think they have an ear to hear. Now, if it comes around, or I may leave with a sow seed. You know how it is to sow the seed, that somebody comes after and water, and then somebody comes after and harvests. Okay. I'll sow a seed all day, no problem. Got lots of seeds. All right. But I don't want to I don't argue. I never argue. But I will get into a debate with the subject. I had a breakout session in here Wednesday morning. Had no subject. So me and this guy got into it. It was good. We walked out shaking hands. It was not a problem. I will take my position and I will hold it firm because I know how to do that. You will learn how to do that. But I know if this person is open to hearing what I have to say, and they should be, but we won't discuss that, then obviously I want to hear what they have to say. Because here's how I look at it. I want to hear what you have to say because I could be wrong. Maybe you're right. If I can't hear what you have to say and how you got there, that don't help me at all. How am I going to grow? How am I going to improve? How am I going to correct my errors? This is the responsibility of the believers to hold the teacher's feet accountable on the fire. This is your role. So we were into it, and I realized that I'm going to have to talk to this guy after the meeting. So I just shut it down, moved on to the next person. You will learn to do that. It may take you more than 3 sentences initially, but eventually you will determine whether or not I'm going to sow a seed with 1 sentence and I'm off to the next project that I'm doing. Or in the early days, you're going to just be in there, and instead of 3 sentences, there's going to be 33 sentences, and you're going to be needing to take a nap. So I just want to let you know what is coming. And I'm not even a prophet, and I know this is going to happen. We're through with knowing your audience. Next up, Bible and science. Okay, jet streams in the Bible has to do with the path of the winds that adjust it. If I'm on the East Coast, many of you probably not on the East Coast, hurricanes come up from the Atlantic, they leave Africa, they come across to the Caribbean, then they come on up the East Coast. Just had a hurricane a couple of weeks ago. And what happens is they, depending on how far they can come in, land is controlled by the jet stream. If there's a high pressure coming down, then as it starts to come like this, then it redirects it and it goes up the side. This has been going on. We've been tracking that for a couple hundred years. Did you know air has weight? Yeah, I didn't know that. Bible knew that. Did you know that dinosaurs existed? Yeah. They're described in Job 40 and 41. Genetics. Mentioned in Genesis 30. Selective breeding. Now, you know, genetics is that's one of the hot things that's going on right now. Did you know that creatures need blood to survive? Leviticus 17:11, the life is in the blood. Confirmed by scientists now. 22, hygiene is important. We're not going to have a major discussion on this. Leviticus 15 contains detailed instructions on washing and cleanliness, blah, blah, blah. What I want you to understand is that hygiene is important. Going back, how many people have heard of the Black Plague? Good. Yeah, somebody's been to history class. Within that context, there were some things that went on. A lot of people got sick, died. It was bad. But none of the Jews did because they knew about hygiene. They knew there was invisible particles, bacteria, and all that other stuff. And they were handling their business according to Leviticus. None of them got sick. Everybody else that was getting sick and dying blamed the Jews, wanted to put them to death. So just remember, you could be a believer. You could be in the right. You could be following what the Scripture says. You could be healthy, and everybody's going to hate you and want to put you to death. So as you begin putting yourself into a position to defend your faith, remember that there is a cost. What is sanitizing? Sanitizing is a key part of cleanliness. 24 is my last one. Isolation. Leviticus covers this. If you look at the scripture, I'm going to read this here. To isolate the affected person for 7 days. If they are not better, isolate them for another 7 days. We've been knowing about isolation for over 3,000 years. Scientists have confirmed it now. That when you're dealing with people who are, what would you say, sick? They got a problem. They got a skin thing going on. They got a white hair in the middle of a puff thing, whatever that stuff is. You isolate them for 7 days. Then somebody of authority in Moses' time, the Torah, it was a priest. If it's gone, come back into the camp. If it's not, isolate them another 7 days so that nobody else catches it. So, the Bible has known. There it is right there. Let me read the text. If the spot on the skin is white, but does not appear to be more than skin deep, look at the details. 3,000 years ago. And the hair in it has not turned white, the priest is to put the infected person in isolation for 7 days. There are numerous texts like this that tell you how to live your life with other human beings. Okay? So here's my summary. First and foremost, you need to know the scriptures. That's not going to happen overnight. It just isn't. Okay? Fortunately for you, you have access to more materials than other people in the history of the world. So you've got the access. But this falls under time management. I'm just going to give you one example. I met with a young man and a young woman. He was 12, she's 13. And they go to a private Catholic school. And so 1 day a week, for the entire hour, they do nothing but read Scripture. So that means that in a month, generally speaking, they read 4 hours of Scripture a month. So then I asked them, so tell me, how many hours do you use your devices and your Game Boys and all that other stuff in a month? Oh, about 100. So you read Scripture because you have to for 4 hours a month, but the rest of the time you're over here playing these games because you're addicted to virtual reality that doesn't even exist. 100 hours. I'm concerned for that person. Maybe they'll grow out of it. I don't know. Okay? But you have the resources. You have the time. You're smart people because you're at this level. You can get to know the scriptures. Like, take this presentation here. Within a few days, you'll be able to download the entire thing and have every single slide there and work through it yourself. Make comments, do whatever you want to do with it. And that applies to everything that's taken place this week. You are ready. You're at the starting line. You're ready to step off into the race. Know your audience. You're dealing with rabbis, no New Testament. Dealing with Christians, no law. Dealing with atheists, nothing. Other. Okay? Know who you're dealing with so that you can have the answers that will sow the seed that they can't reject. You know, it's like many of you probably have not been to Jerusalem. That's okay. But if you go to the museum, one of the museums there has the Dead Sea Scrolls. I spoke about them from 1947, dating back to 200-300 BC. So that's like not quite 1,500 years, but a long time ago. So they put them under glass. And you can walk up to this pole and you can look and see them. This would be like the person standing to me staring at the Dead Sea Scrolls and saying, they don't exist. I can't help that person because they're right here. So you're going to have to discern. You're going to have to make some type of decision about, can I help this person right now? Maybe I just need to sow a seed, bless them, pray, and leave. You will learn to do that. The train's going to pull out of the station slow. It's not going to happen a day. Rome was not built in a day. So don't have unrealistic expectations, but it can happen. You have to understand, look at me. I went to high school. I graduated barely. I wanted to go to college, but they said, no, we can't let you in because you don't know how to read. So you're going to have to take pre-reading and pass it before you can even start your first semester here. So I had to learn how to read. The problem was, and don't file this under vegetables, the problem was the only thing I wanted to read was comic books in the 60s. So that's all I read. So by the time it came to English, literature, and history and writing papers, not my strong suit. All right, so then I went through college. Then I went and did music for years. And then I'm in computers. And eventually, 25 years later, God says, okay, let's shake this up a little bit. So I'm just telling you, it doesn't come overnight. It just doesn't. So get ready for a long journey. But the other thing is, you're here to help God take over this planet. You need to understand what your calling is. Can God do it without you? Absolutely. Does he want to do it without you? Absolutely not. This is a group effort. He wants your help. You want to help him? You don't have to. But you are giving the opportunity to help him take over this planet. Think of James Bond. Except there's a lot of James Bond, and maybe I don't even know what the female word for James is. But anyway, you have the opportunity to make the big decision. You've got everybody and their brother willing to help you. You just have to decide. And then it is. You got people like Leah Todd. I like her. She's outspoken. You never know the next thing she's going to say. You never know the next thing she's going to do. I like that. It's fresh. Okay? So, you got people who can be here to help you. As a pastor, when somebody wants to do something, like let's say I do a lot of the presentations, but if somebody says, I want to do a presentation, okay, fine. What is it on? Okay, that's fine. Okay, now what's my role? I'm not going to tell them everything to do, but I am going to say to you, I will come alongside and help you with any questions you have, help you with hardware, help you with software, help you with design. I'm a Photoshop guy. I'll help you with everything you need to prepare your presentation to present to the people. But I'm not going to do it for you. But I will help you. You will step into that position, and those people who are in those positions will help you do what you need to do. Doesn't get better than that. Okay? So, this is the last slide. All right? After this slide will be all the information resources that relate to this information. If you download it, you'll be able to access that. And that is all I have.